language systems. So let's have a look. So part number one is language systems. Yeah, and the question in here would be, what are they? Yeah, in here you're watching on the screen that I have 4 sections. I can speak about lexis, about phonology, about grammar, and about discourse. So a system, language systems, or a system of linguistic, they are units or elements that are used in a particular language. Yeah, systems have their unique form, and this would depend very much on the language that we're talking. Yeah, it is important to know a little bit about language systems so we can understand better how language works. And if we understand better how language works, we will be able to teach it in a better way and be more effective when we're working with our students. Today, we're going to go a little bit into lexis, yeah, into grammar, into discourse, and we're going to focus a little bit more on phonology. Yeah, and well, unfortunately, we do not have all the time because, yeah, each and every one of these sections are absolutely fantastic. There are a lot of things that we can work on with them. So let's get started. So language systems, and again, we have phonology, lexis, grammar, discourse. Yeah, and we have 2 more categories according to some articles that I found. Yeah, we can also speak about situational system and functional system. So when we speak about situation, we are talking mainly about where we are and who we're talking to and about what. And when we speak about function, maybe you have seen this in books. If we're teaching students how to call attention, how to ask a question, describing, explaining, um, defining, etc. So this would be very much what we do with the language. Today, because of time, we're going to be working mainly with phonology, lexis, grammar, and discourse. And as I said a second ago, we're going to work a little bit more on phonology. It's really fun. So, language systems, and this will be a little bit of a brush up on the terms that we saw the previous session. Phonology, or the pronunciation of individual sounds, words, and chunks of speech. Yeah, in this case, we have different aspects. We're going to be speaking about intonation. We're going to be speaking about stress at the word level, stress at the sentence level. And when I mentioned intonation, teachers, if you remember these famous tag questions, like, you love me, don't you? Yeah, as an example of a tag, we know that we have either a rising or a falling intonation. Yeah, when we speak about lexis, yeah, or vocabulary, it would be basically speaking the meaning and the usage of words. When we speak about discourse, we're going to talk about different types of texts. Yeah, this can be spoken or written, and the conventions they have because they are different. Yeah, some people call this discourse competence. Yeah, and we also have to check a little bit about appropriacy and style. Appropriacy is a lovely word, quite English, quite British, a little bit difficult to spell. Yeah, but beautiful because this is telling me how I should perform depending on who I am talking to, my context, and my situation, which are the sub bullets that you see here. Teachers, many years, in other talks, I'm sorry, maybe you have heard about competence and social competence or social linguistic competence. Yeah, it's very much connected to that. Yeah, but I think that we can visit this in a different session, right? Because it is a lot of information. So, if we speak about grammar, we have to speak about forms. And grammar is connected to the way we make sentences. And, different aspects of sentences like tense, if we speak about the present tense, if we speak about the past tense, person, first person, second person, and so on. If we talk about grammar, we have to speak about syntax. And probably you remember that last session I gave you an example in Spanish about how you change the order of the different clauses in a sentence and it still makes sense. But in English, we cannot do that. In English, we have basically speaking one form and we have to follow that. Of course, we have certain exceptions, but this is not the case. Now, why is this important? I mentioned this our last session, and I will say it again. You know that our students are used to read everything the same way they read in Spanish. In other words, they put syllables together. And in this same form is the way that they're going to start elaborating or constructing their sentences. In other words, they think about the sentences in Spanish, and then they try to either say them or write them in English. So it is very important that we teach them how to work in this, so my students will know that there are very specific forms in English. And the more examples I give them, the many more the opportunities they're going to get. Well, I mentioned a property, and well, this is also called pragmatic competence. You know, pragmatic means that you are very practical. Yeah, we go for a very quick definition. Yeah, but one more time, it is just understanding the situation, the setting, on the person, so we can respond accordingly. Very well. So, teachers, this was the brush up, like the reminder of the things that we saw in our previous session. Let's get started. So part number one is connected to lexis, and lexis is connected, sorry, to vocabulary. Yeah, you're reading here on the screen that we're talking about words or set of words or word families, yeah, that may have or may not have a specific meaning. Yeah, and in here we have a lot of examples. Let's have a look at the ones that we have on screen. You can have, for instance, a compound noun, which is a combination of more words, yeah, that are used as a single word. A typical example, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a headache, or a stomachache. Some people still debate a little bit on the word breakfast, whether it is or not a compound word. Yeah, it is, because on one part you have break, yeah, which means stop or interrupt. On the other one is fast, which is when you are not eating. Yeah, so this would be an example of a compound noun. The second part, suffix. Suffix is a part of one term called affixation. Affixation is the adding of different particles at the beginning or at the end of words to give different meanings. Yeah, in the case of suffix, it would be a meaningful group of letters that we add to the end of the sentence, and we can give like a different part of speech. For example, if we add an ly, we are making an adverb. The typical examples would be happy, happily, angry, angrily, sad, sadly. And this would be like some examples of how we are making from adjective an adverb via a suffix. The next is one of my favorites, the multi-word verb or phrasal verb. Yeah, and these ones are a little bit of a nightmare for many students because they say that they have to remember too many things. But actually, it's not a matter of remembering combinations, but a matter of using. So if they apply the word, they will know how to use it. How does it work? We have a verb and we can add an adverb or a preposition or more than one word, and we can start creating different meanings. For example, if we use the verb to look, we can say look in, yeah, if you're checking something inside. We can say look into, that would be like paying a lot of attention, trying to find something or investigating. You can use look up, that would be checking for a word in a dictionary. You can use look up to, that is when you express a lot of admiration for somebody. You can say look out, which means be careful. You can say look after, that means taking care of. And if you notice, taking care of. So here, usually teachers, the problem is that students try to remember the words as a memory work instead of trying to use them inside of a context. This can help. More words. What is a homonym? A homonym is a word that may have the same spelling, but where's my? Oh, here we go. I'm sorry. Uh, Homonym. It may have the same form, the same sound. Yeah, but it can have the same spelling, but it can have different meanings. Let me give you one example. Left, L-E-F-T. If I tell you left, you can say, oh my God, she left me. That is the past tense of the verb to leave. But if I say, okay, go straight ahead and turn to the left, or turn left, yeah, that would be a noun. If I use the word pen, P-E-N, I can speak about, for example, something to write with. Well, I have a very beautiful pen. Or I can speak about where animals are kept. I went to my friend's ranch and they showed me they had some chicken inside a pen. I can also use the word wound, W-O-U-N-D. Yeah, it can be an injury. Yeah, oh, I was wounded. It can be a verb. Or it can be wound when you wrap something around. So there are many different words that you can use. And things to remember, in English, we can use some words as a verb or as a noun. Example, the word rain. You can say, oh my God, it's going to rain. Or I love watching the rain. It's raining again. And you will see different uses. Usually teachers, this kind of differences and uses are better if explained to students that are B1 or above. Yeah, if we try this with students that are below B1 level, we may just cause confusion. Yeah, so unless they are asking us, it is better not to pick the topic. Then we have a morpheme. If you remember, morpheme, and we saw this last session, is the smallest unit of meaning in English. Yeah, and in here, I use the word come, I believe, and I told you come, coming, comes, income, outcome, yeah, as examples. Synonyms, this is very transparent, so we know the word. I'm not going to explain this, but we have others. Let's have a look. And look at this. We have synonyms that are words with similar meanings, different forms, different spelling. For example, if you say start and begin, finish and end, antonym, it would be entirely the opposite. Yeah, example would be the Beatles. Yeah, I say hello, you say goodbye. Yeah. And we have this very beautiful word, hyponym. Yeah, and hyponym teacher is a word that is connected to categories of words. For example, if I tell you the word colors, color would be like my top category or my hypernym. And if I told you, oh yes, colors, purple, green, sort of pink or magenta, blue, red, these are examples of colors. These become hyponyms of the word color. And if I check the word red and I want hyponyms, I can tell you light red, dark red, wine red, blood red, carmelian, vermilion, and I can have different forms, and this would be examples of hyponyms. And teachers, last but not least, cognates. Cognates are transparent words in both languages. So actually, if I tell you words such as information, elevator, communication, there is no need to translate anything. Why not? Because they are very clear. But in here, in cognates, we have also different forms. So I can have true friends. So if I told you information, you know that's exactly the same form in Spanish. Communication, elevator, conductor. Yeah, conductor has two meanings. I'm going to take that. I'm sorry, take it back. Yeah, but if I use, this could be my true friends, but I also can have my false friends. And these are words that may seem to have one meaning and they have another one. Example, the word exit. I remember a student about 20, 25 years ago who said, teacher, I want to have a lot of exit. And I said, no. You want to have a lot of success. Or a teacher that said, teacher, I am very happy. Why? I am embarrassed. And I said, oh no, you're pregnant. So there are many words that may seem something in both languages, and they may have a different meaning. So these are my true friends and my false friends. Teachers, for enhancing students' understanding of language, I can teach them a little bit of cognates and even to my lower level of proficiency. This is going to help them understand better, and it's going to reassure them a little bit. Just to make sure make sure that the words that they can handle, so they can work. So or between different my students' vocabulary, the basic meaning. So this would be a little bit about the different kinds of words. Just things to remember if you're working with, like for example, outstanding live escalate. Yeah, you will find that you have a section of vocabulary. Yeah, at the beginning of the unit, a different section of vocabulary for the conversation, and an additional section of vocabulary for my reading. So I can explain a little bit more so my students can get to know more about the use of language. Let's go to phonology. And as I mentioned, we're going to stay here a little bit more. So phonology is the study of the sound system, yeah, the phonemic system of a language. If you remember, teachers, last session I told you that English is phonemic. We put sounds together. Yeah, Spanish is syllabic. We put consonant sound, vowel sound, and we make a syllable. And my students' trend is to read everything in Spanish. Example, yeah, if I give you just the words that I have in here, where am I? If I give you this word, an initial hissing sound, as in student, study, studio, is not present in Spanish. So my students are going to say study, student, right? Because they don't know, they are not used to that. So I would have to make them a word, another possibility. Yeah, if they say this word sound, and they don't know that sometimes whenever we have letter O and letter U together, the sound can be U, it can be the sound O, or it can be the sound OW. Chances are they're going to say sound or sound. Yeah, and they don't know that in this case the pronunciation is sound. Yeah, the typical example would be with PH. So if I teach my students to find words with an initial PH or a middle PH, and I tell them almost every time they find this, they're going to have a f sound. They will say, ah, so this is phonemic, telephone, phony, etc., etc. So this is connected to phonology, teachers. It is the study of the sounds and the way we use them in order to communicate or to make meaning. Yeah, and this is connected as you're reading with the production and the interpretation of sounds. Yeah, and well, there are many characteristics in here. Yeah, this is just for your information because we're not going to go this far. Phonology is a branch of linguistics. I'm sorry, and we can have phonetics and phonemics. And teachers today, we're going to be working mainly with the production or articulation of sounds. This is actually going to be, yeah, very much our work today. Yeah, and one more time, if you remember about the technical knowledge for effective teachers, the idea is to know more about language, how it works, and how we can teach it in a more effective way. So, phonology teachers is basing everything on segmental features or the little parts. It can have segmental features, super segmental features. Yeah, and as I told you before, the idea here is how we can use phonology in order to make meaning. Yeah, and I hope that I can give you an example in just one sense. So we have very fancy names, segmental and super segmental, but don't worry. Fortunately, this is not about a test. So, things that we know that we have seen. This is my IPA or my International Phonetic Alphabet. This is entirely some examples of what you can find with British English. Yeah, or things that you can find with American English. And one thing that you're going to find very, very often is voiced and unvoiced. Here it says voiceless, but it can also be unvoiced. Teachers, the next time we meet, please remind me so I show you how to do this, because this is one thing that we have to do on a face-to-face basis. It's going to be too complicated if I try to explain this to you right now. So I have a pending issue with you, which means that the next time we meet, I will show you how to know whether a sound is voiced or unvoiced. Yeah, so anyway, we have different codes, British English, American English. Yeah, and if you remember, we were speaking about the segments or the segmental features. Phonemes teachers are divided in two parts. Yeah, we have consonants and we have vowels. Yeah, consonants can be voiced or unvoiced, homework for the next time we meet. And vowels, they are always voiced because they always make a sound. That's the basic definition. Yeah, and vowels can be divided into different sections. It can be single vowels, yeah, or it can be diphthongs. Now, we know diphthongs because this is very similar to a cognate, right? It looks familiar for us. We know that diphthongs is two letters together that make two independent sounds, but my vowels can be short or can be long. Probably you remember that I gave you an example. I told you if I give you letter A, I can speak about a short letter A sound, as in hat, cat, map, nap, nap, pat. Or I can give you a long A sound, as in car, park. If you notice, you don't say that you have a cat. You have a cat. Yeah, and the cat loves taking a nap. Yeah, but you don't say that you have a car. You have a car. And when we can, we will take a drive and maybe we can go to the park. And maybe we can stay late until we see the stars. So it is different sounds, and we have to make students aware of this. Yeah. Of course, this is entirely the real speech. We seldom pay attention to the situation, but it is important to know that. Now, sometimes we have letters that go together, yeah, and they can start making different sounds. So this is the definition of a phoneme that we can analyze, and I showed you before consonant sounds, vowel sounds, and these are also called segments. If you remember 2 slides ago, I said segmental features. So segments features are the sounds. Yeah, and we can have vowel sound, consonant sounds, and in here, teachers, yeah, we can also have different forms. We can have diagraphs, yeah, diphthongs that we have already mentioned. For example, my name has a diphthong, actually has two, Mao and Xiao, right? And we can have clusters, and clusters are basically speaking, well, it depends on what you're reading, but usually you see this, the cluster as the different forms that you're working with consonants. For example, CL can be a cluster, as in cluster, class, clinch, clench. Yeah. And this is very simple because it looks very similar to the way we read in Spanish. So in general terms, we seldom have problems with this. But diagraphs, on the other hand, are letters that go together and they produce only one sound. Yeah, and sometimes you see this in consonant sounds, but you can also say this in vowel sounds. And this is important because this is when we teach students to decode certain words so they can read them correctly. For example, if we have KN, yeah, as in the verb to know, we know that KN, the sound is N. So we say I know, as in know, night, knack, for example. Another one, PH, I have already mentioned, right? Yeah, here we have, for example, diphthongs, phonemes, telephone, WR, wrist, wrap. Yeah, and why is this important? Because if you teach them this and you show them the words, then students will understand this part. I will go to that in just one more second. Another one, CK. And you will notice, teachers, that I have a hyphen here, which means that this is an ending and this is a beginning, right? So CK, as in hack, pack, lock. Yeah, even though you have a CK, yeah, the sound is only one, and the sound is K. If we go, for example, with my vowel sounds, I can have EA together. And here I can speak about the long E sound, as in, for example, breathe. Yeah, as in, for example, read. Or I can have a long E sound, for example, as in read, lead, L-E-A-D, breath, and breath, and so more. Yeah, so the conditioning here, teachers, is that I teach my students about these sounds and I practice with some words, but the practice has to be connected with the words I'm going to see. For example, if I teach my students, yeah, that KN usually or always sounds like N, but I give them no example in the class, then this is information that is lost. So I have to make sure that I find this in my class or in my lesson or in my unit so I can start teaching them that. And this is when my students can get a lot of benefit. Another example, I said EA as in breathe, EA as in breath or breath. Yeah, I can also see IE. Yeah, and this can have only, I'm sorry, only one sound. Yeah, and this one is one that I love, UI. Yeah, and UI is a common misconception for Spanish speakers because they always put both sounds together and they tell you, I want some fruit. And we know the sound is U. So we know the sound is fruit, right? I'm going to highlight only letter U here. And for example, if we speak about clothing, you say that somebody wears a suit, and usually students say sweet. So we have to teach them. And the question is, how do we do this? And some examples, if we base everything on how little children are taught about this, is simple. First, we teach the sound. Yeah, then I try to illustrate the words. And at the very end, I show them the word. So for example, if I want to use this diagram and I tell them fruit, use, suit, I would have to have an example of different fruits. I tell you an apple, a banana, that is a fruit. Yeah, I show them a glass of orange juice, so that is use, and I make them repeat. So I tell them this is the sound. And at the very end, I show them the word. And when they read it in Spanish, I correct to them in English. But since I have already given them some work before, chances are they will understand it in a better form. So the typical example, teachers, how do you say this word? You don't have to open your microphones, don't worry. Patty will prevent you. But if you notice, we're speaking about the white bird, the symbol of love, the symbol of peace, of the Holy Trinity too. But the Holy Spirit, I'm sorry. Yeah, but usually people go and they say dove, and the sound is dove, as in love, as in glove, as in above. So teachers, if you notice, yeah, I am doing this backwards because you know English, you know the words, so I am assuming that you will analyze and understand this. But if I were teaching this to my students, I will produce a sound, I will take illustration of a dove, a glove, yeah, a heart, so they can understand that is love, and then I tell them to repeat the words. So the next time they see that, they can read it in the going to start improving their fluency as well, because this would be like part of the idea of working with uh, phon- phonology, phonemics, phonics, and so on. So I spoke to you about segmental features, and I told you we're speaking about consonants, consonant sounds and vowel sounds. Suprasegmental are below segments. Yeah, and these are connected to certain important features. Yeah, over here, I told you this one or two slides. Yeah, all vowels are voiced because all of them produce a sound, and we feel the sound when we produce it. But anyway, as I said, this is going to be my homework the next time we meet. Okay? So, some important features in English. We can talk about stress at word level or sentence level. We can speak about intonation, and if you remember the tag questions, we can have a rising intonation or a falling intonation. There's an extra category that says that sometimes you have it rising and then falling. Yeah, but well, that depends on what you're reading. Yeah, but that is intonation. Yeah, and then the rhythm, lovely word, awfully difficult to spell, and the rhythm goes with the way that we speak in English. You will notice this. This one is very difficult. Professor me in a conference in Mexico, and then in another conference in Bulgaria, I still do not understand. He says that English speakers go with a rhythm that goes like tanti 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 tam. When I expressed this to a friend of mine, James Hall, a Canadian, he looked at me and he said, "Yes, yes, of course, it makes sense." And I said, "Good Lord, I still do not understand because I'm a non native speaker of English." So let's step aside from rhythm for a second. Remember, this is not connected with some variations of language. For example, if you speak about accents, yeah, if you speak about an English accent, an American accent, if you speak about a Latin accent, this has absolutely nothing to do with this. Some people think that rhythm is connected to the way black. If pronunciation is clear, then we can understand each other. So, for example, word stress. If we speak about one syllable words, for instance, if I say come, in, out, dog, cat, bird, no problem. It's only one syllable, and that takes all the stress. In Spanish, we say the accent. And if you remember, in Spanish, it can be written or it can be just pronounced. In our case, in English, it is only sound. Yeah, stress. So in this case, we yeah. So I don't say mother, I say mother, father, sister, brother. And anytime, anyway, you're going to say it like that. Yeah. And that's the way it's going to be. Yeah. So you can say the words in a loud voice. Just don't open your microphone. Yeah. Pity we cannot do this. Syllables. What happens with three syllables? You don't say umbrella. You don't say umbrella. You say umbrella. Fantastic. Salvation. See where the stress goes. If you have a question, you can see the pronunciation code. If you don't want to see the pronunciation code, which is going to be a real shame, you can always check YouTube for pronunciation. Yeah, but it's going to be different. This can change. Of course, this is not a rule. If I tell you the name of one of the best teachers I have had, her name is Barbara. Yeah, and you're going to say, "Oh, that's different." Yeah, because in Spanish we say Barbara, but in English you say Barbara. So it's only two syllables. Yeah, so one more time. Two syllables, three syllables. Let's see more words. Yeah, and here we have four syllables. Independent, corresponding, levitation. Long words, but unfortunately, teachers, we have no time for that. I am awfully sorry. That's going to be part of your personal research and homework. So let's continue with this. Over here, we also have contrastive sounds. stress. And this means, as you're reading, that sometimes we can change stress from one side to the other. Yeah. So, for example, if I have the following words, yeah, and I want to use it, this is very much British English, okay? And if I say contrast, I'm speaking about a noun. We have to have some contrast. But if you contrast this, then this is a noun, very much specific. This is beautiful because we have a lovely change in here. Yeah, well, you know that she has the world record in eating and speaking at the same time. So you say record. But if you're going to register something, then we change this S sound for an E sound, and the stress goes in the final syllable. So you say record. You don't say tape recorder, you say tape recorder, right? So there's where you have the stress. Yeah, if I say address, well, my address is 61 Horston Ferry Road, that would be James Bond. Yeah, 1011 Downing Street, that is the Prime Minister in London. Yeah, 221B Baker Street, that is Sherlock Holmes in London as well. And that is his or their address. Yeah, but if you are speaking to somebody, you are addressing somebody, so you can speak about address. Yeah, so some people sometimes think whether saying address is American English and address it is British English, but I'm sorry, it is just the way that you're working. And this is a very, very subtle difference between the use of contrast, yeah, and the use of stress, but it's always interesting to know. Usually you see this difference between nouns and verbs, and usually teachers, you see this in British English books. Yeah, and if you remember, I told you connected speech. And connected speech means all the sounds together in order to make a phrase or a sentence. Yeah, so teachers, do me a favor, please. Without opening your microphones, say this sentence in a loud voice. If you can say it 3, 4 times, it's going to be better. Thank you. So chances are that if we give this to our students, they are going to say, she can swim faster than I can. And it would make a lot of sense because if you notice, we're giving the same stress to each and every word. She can swim faster than I can. And this would be an example of precision. Yeah. But if you read this in a logical way, and for example, here, people like Patty, who has a lot of experience because she lived in the States, or anybody who has been in the US or Canada or any other English speaking country can do this. And you will notice that the sentence will go like, she can swim faster than I can. One more time. She can swim faster than I can. One more time. She can swim. She can swim. Yes or no? So I am putting can and I'm connecting it with swim. So this letter A sound goes for the silent mode. You call this a schwa. So you don't say she can swim faster. You say she can swim faster than I can. And teachers, this is important because this is when you start gaining fluency. Yeah. And if we explain this, yeah, this can goes for a schwa or a weak form, and this can goes for the full form. Can swim and can. Together, can and swim, alone, only can. And obviously, it is at the end, so they can also help. Yeah, so this would be like the explanation. Teachers, the fantastic part is that you are already doing it. And all we have to do is teach students so they can start being more fluent. Yeah, words have sounds, yes, but when you put them together, some of the sounds are lost. And there are many different names for this, but unfortunately, we have no time for these names today. So I gave you this example last time. Yeah, and this would be an example of connected speech. Yeah, this is the album from the Beatles, Hard Day's Night from 1964, great year. And this is one of the hits, and I love her. And this is what I was telling you last time we met, yeah, on this session. If you give to students this, they're going to say, and I love her. But if we say this together, and I love her, and I love her, you're going to know that, yeah, we're putting these words together. And I love her. And actually, you can play the song and listen to that. And they're not going to say, and I love her. They're going to say, and I love her. Yeah, and this would be an example of connected speech, teachers. The letter says, I give her all my love. And the Beatles say, I give her. I give her all my love. That means that this letter H sound disappears. Yeah. And there, here it says, that's all I do. Well, no problem. You saw my love. Yeah. And here, for example, you're not interesting as homework. Find in Spotify or in whatever you like, find the song to this and read the lyrics and see what happens. And you're going to find a lot of examples. And the most important if you teach the sounds to your students, they're going to start learning how to connect all. So it's about phonology. I don't want coffee, like a cup of tea. I'd like a cup of herbal tea. I wait for the word in blue. I'd like a cup of tea. I'd like a cup of herbal tea. I'd like a cup of herbal tea. Teachers, let's be romantic for a second. I know you're not in the mood. We're all cooped up. Yeah, I am with my family, so yes, I am in the mood. So we have the following sentence. I love you. What happens if I change the stress? And I say, I love you. I love you. I don't love anybody else. I love you. He doesn't. Make sense? So if you notice, teachers, we can change the meaning of a sentence just by changing the stress. Yeah, and it's a very funny way that works usually in English. In Spanish, we can also use it, but I'm afraid that's a joke that I will have to tell you when I see you there. Yeah, that's going to be sometime in the future. So, teachers, we can change the meaning with English. It doesn't. All we have to do, teachers, is pay a little bit of additional attention when we hear people speaking. Yeah, and understanding that is going to be very useful to them. So, speaking about stress at a sentence, unconnected speech, as I said before, is putting all the sounds together. Yeah. So, what happens if I give you this phrase? And it is a phrase because if you notice, always in your homework, teachers is to say this in a loud voice. Yeah, and you will notice that if you say it many different times in a loud voice, in the end, you will have to say an hour and a half. an hour and a half, an hour and a half. So if you notice, yeah, we put together a with hour and a, yeah, and a goes as an a. So in this case, this means that letter D is lost. Yeah, so we say an hour and a half. Yeah, and this is the fantastic part, teachers. You become aware of this, not get it, not pronouncing certain phrases or sentences, or even the lyrics of a song, and they will find a different meaning. So, last example from connected speech. Yeah, the last minutes, teachers, because we're going to finish in a few more minutes, is connected to grammar. Yeah, um, we're going to talk about this a little bit later. The next talk is going to be about language skills and functions. Yeah, but like introductory part. So in here you're reading students and teachers expect to teach and be taught grammar. Students expect to be taught grammar. Teachers expect to teach grammar. Sometimes when you are being presented books, one of the questions that some teachers give you is, okay, and where's grammar? Because that without grammar, we would be speaking like Tarzan. Tarzan, just Tarzan. I believe you're Jane. Different forms. Yeah, and to looks. It was tense. And I'm sorry, teachers, if you didn't get it, you have to read it twice. Right? Yeah, we're speaking about the present tense, the past tense, and the future tense. Although there is a debate about which one is which. Yes, and it is also a set of rules that are telling you about how the words go together in a sentence. I spoke about syntax at the very beginning of today's session, and that I gave you in Spanish last time. Versus being able to communicate. Yeah, and that's one thing that we're going to discuss in a couple of sessions more. But anyway, this is one thing that we will discuss. Yeah, um, according to my watch, it is 12 minutes past 5, which means that I have like very roughly 5 minutes to wrap this up. So let's continue with this. Yeah, what happens if we start working with grammar? Basically speaking, teachers, we can use or we can give more information. Yeah, this is an example that I gave my students many, many years ago um, when I spoke about relative clauses. Yeah, I was speaking about additional information. So if you have the sentence, that girl used to be my girlfriend, is not the same as if you say that tall, blonde, good-looking girl, because in here, teachers, we're adding adjectives. Yeah, and I'm using this example because if you teach a lot of boys, this usually makes them pay attention. Yeah, if I had girls in my class, I would have to use a different example, probably my brother, who's the handsome boy in the family. Yeah, but the point in here is that you see that they can give more information. And if I start working with relative clauses and I add that tall, blonde, good looking girl who is wearing, and then I give my relative word on additional information, then my students are going to see how a small sentence can be built into a more complex sentence. Of course, teachers, this would be an example for B1 plus. I use this with B2 students mainly. Yeah, so they can start playing with language and start elaborating a little bit more. But the most important thing in here, teachers, is that grammar is very useful. It is extremely useful. All we have to do is concentrate on the relevant aspects that we can teach. And the most important thing in here, teachers, is connected to our learning, and if possible, to a practical application of grammar. If my students are not going to do anything connected to these kind of examples, because this would be entirely for writing purposes, then there is no point in teaching them this. Yeah, I would be wasting my time and their time as well. But if this is part of my course, my content, if I want them to start working with a more descriptive text in writing, these teachers would be a very good example. Yeah, and one more time, this is very much your choice. If you remember, I think I told you the second time we met that according to one article I read, sometimes teachers are set to make as many as 200 different decisions in only one class. So it depends very much on what you're teaching, the context, and obviously your lesson plan and your objectives. But anyway, teachers, this would be another example of grammar. Yeah, and if we have to speak about grammar, we have to speak about the parts of speech. Yeah, teachers, I think I told you the joke, well, the comment that many years ago when I started learning English, I a lot of things, and so I had the part of speech, and then I had to name people, objects, or things. A pronoun is a word that stands in the place of a noun, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. Now, why is this important? Because sometimes students look at words in a very mechanical way. They don't, especially after a B1, B1 plus level, we can start telling them to pay a little bit more attention to certain words, especially if they have, sorry, especially if they have to work in an exam of use of English, for instance. Yeah, here you have different examples. Yeah, examples of nouns, of pronouns, verbs, adjectives. Yeah, and the words that everybody hates, prepositions, because they don't know how to use them. Conjunctions, that they think that conjunction is only the word and, or interjections, and nobody works with interjections nowadays. Yeah, but if you say, oh, oops, wow, yeah. In my books that were British English, I had to find what word that was called hello, hello with an exclamation mark, and that means an expression of surprise. And I love this one because this one is no longer used. Yeah, and if you read it in Spanish, there is no problem because this is very much, it is not a cognate. Yeah, but this is a beautiful expression. And this, teachers, is an interjection. Alas. Alas is like, wow, oh my God, poor me. Yeah, alas actually implies that you're losing something. Yeah, but teachers nowadays students go with, oh, I'm sorry about this. They go working with things like OMG, and that is, yeah, the deepest example of an interjection. Oh, And new students, new generations, and I learned this from my kids, sometimes they use the word F. Yeah, so if you have younger students or learners, you can express and you can ask them what F means, and that's going to be your homework. Yeah, I had 3 sessions in order to learn this. But teachers, back to this part, it is important that we get to know the parts of speech as teachers so we can explain this better to our students, especially if this is part of a sentence or completing a sentence. Yeah, especially if it is a rule to complete a sentence or if we're giving feedback after a test. This would be like part of the ideas that we can share. Teachers, we have a session. Yeah, this is when I have to say thank you very much for your time. Let me just check. No, not this. Let me just check the chat. Yeah, to see whether there is any question. And if not, then I will have to say thank you very much to you all. And thank you very much to Patty and to Carolina and to Maya Ecuador, to Maya ELT for hosting the session. So teachers,
Mauricio for teaching us so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, teachers, in the comment section, I have been posting the link to the to the forms you have to fill out. Here is the information again, and in a little bit, Mauricio, can I?
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing so you can be in control.
There we go. I will share my screens. Here you will find, here's my phone number and my email address is Lorena's. Most of you have talked to her. It's her email and her phone number. We're happy to help you with whatever you need. We're here for you. And I hope you've enjoyed this session. So thank you so much for coming. And please don't forget to fill out this form that is attached here so I can send you the certificate.
Teachers, thank you very much for your time. Hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
Me out of the house. So thank you, teachers, for coming. And yeah, talking about pronunciation and all things, I have lived in England, in the US, in Michigan, and in Vancouver, Canada. And it's very interesting of how words change based on where you are and how pronunciation is different. So it's a very fun thing for me to hear it and to it's very interesting to know how it goes. For example, in Canada, they say, instead of saying the remote control, as they say in the US, they say the clicker. So when I went to Florida and asked for the clicker, everybody looked at me really weird in the store. So don't go to Best Buy and ask for a clicker. Okay, well, thank you, teachers. Thanks so much for coming. And we're here for you. Any questions, just email them to me or send me a WhatsApp message. I'll answer as soon as I can. Bye.
Tenemos varios, ¿verdad? Vamos a coger nuestro lapicito y vamos a